Hi, I'm Katie, a manifestation expert who's helped people all over the world attract love and manifest the greatest relationships of their lives. Each week, I share the real secrets to manifesting love and creating a better dating life, so you can finally be done with exes, ghosters, commitment phobes, and all the other lovely walking red flags, and finally manifest your person. I'll also be answering all your manifesting questions and unpacking what's hitting the headlines when it comes to dating, love, and relationships. This is That Manifesting Podcast. Welcome back to That Manifesting Podcast. I'm back to help you on your journey to manifesting a better dating life, as always. Now, I'm going to start this episode with a confession. I have a new obsession. And that obsession is Pedro Pascal. I am in love. Now, I know I don't really know him, but I'm in love with him because he just comes across as the kindest, funniest, sexiest guy. I have been falling down a TikTok rabbit hole. Those people at TikTok know how to reel you in, don't they? Like you just watch one video a bit too long of Pedro swinging his hips, dancing here, there and everywhere, and then before you know it, it's like Pedro talk. That's what my feed basically is. And every video I watch, I just love him more and more, and I can't stop. I would love to know, who are your celebrity crushes? Do you have a weird celebrity crush? Now, if you're listening abroad, you won't know this guy, but if you're in the UK of a certain age, you will know this guy. I had the biggest crush on a guy called Robson Green, and back in the day, he was in a programme called Soldier, and he was delightful. So when I was younger, I went to meet him. He brought out a book, and I bought the book and I went to meet him for a book signing. And this is kind of ick of the week. Again, Katie icking herself out. But I went to this book signing in the shortest little skirt, knee-high white boots, a lovely little top, because in my head I was convinced that Robson Green would fall in love with me and we would get married, and that was it, life made. So I got in the queue and I got up to the front, and he looked me up and down, which I was quite proud of, and he said, "Nice boots." And I said, "Thank you." And that was it. In my head, I was thinking, if he compliments me, I'm just going to be really cool and, like give him the eye, and then he's going to ask me out. No, I just said thank you, took my book, walked off. So yeah, I do love having a little celebrity crush. Used to be Robson Green. It's been many more over the years, but at the moment it's Pedro Pascal. I just bloody love him. Do you love him? Do you like Pedro Pascal? Let me know. Who do you like? Let me see who else I can get on my TikTok feed. Okay, let's get into the episode. First up, we've got listeners' messages. I had a lovely DM from Donna in Sheffield. Thank you, Donna. And Donna sent me a wonderful story, which I am going to share with you. Thank you all who are messaging me, putting yourselves out there and telling me your embarrassing stories. It makes me feel so much better about the awful shit that I share with you about my own. Okay, let's read out what I got from Donna. So Donna says, "Hi Katie, I'm fairly new back into the world of dating, and honestly it's a jungle out there. I recently went for a drink with a guy I'd met on Tinder. He was nice enough, but the chemistry just wasn't there. If I'm being totally honest, it was the dress sense for me. Nothing wrong with him, but it just wasn't my vibe. The problem is, I've always been terrible at rejecting people. I hate that awkward moment where you have to explain why you don't want to see them again. So I thought I'd get with the modern times and use ChatGPT to help me craft a polite rejection message. I poured my heart out, told it exactly what I was thinking, but also made sure to say I mustn't actually tell him it was about his clothes. ChatGPT came back with something that sounded really thoughtful and gentle, so I just copied and pasted it straight into a text and sent it off. A couple of minutes later, he replied. His reply said, "No thank you, I'm good." I was baffled. I hadn't even asked a question. Then I looked back at my message and realised in my rush, I'd copied not just the rejection message, but also the follow-up question that ChatGPT had asked me, which said, "Would you like me to write another version that's more honest about not liking the dress sense?" Donna. So basically, I just rejected him and then immediately offered to send him another version of the rejection that was even harsher. Honestly, I could have died. I did the only thing I could in that situation. I blocked him. Thank you for the podcast. It really makes me smile and I'm learning a lot. Lots of love, Donna. Oh, Donna. Oh, I love that story. Thank you, Donna. I'm sorry that happened. Yeah, lesson to us all. Don't just copy and paste everything from ChatGPT. Read it first. Okay, we don't have an ick of the week this week, and we don't have love and dating in the wild because I've got a longer real talk segment this week. So we're just going to go straight into that. But of course, as always, if you want to send in your messages, if you want to send in your icks, if you want to tell me anything about celebrity love and dating, you can text into the show. The link to do that is in the show notes, or you can DM me on social media like ChatGPT loving Donna did. You'll find me at The Manifesting Mindset. You can DM me if you want to be anonymous. That's all good with me. So let me know what you want to share, and you might be featured in a future episode. Let's get into Real Talk. So the Real Talk segment for this week is all about whether your stories are ruining your dating life. Now, if you've been hanging out with me on this podcast for a while, you'll know that I did a version of this a couple of years back. And honestly, it's still one of my most downloaded episodes, which tells me something very obvious. We're all out here sabotaging ourselves with the shit that goes on in our head. Because my focus now is love and dating and helping you manifest the relationship that you actually want, I thought it was time to revisit this topic, but with a proper dating spin this time. So when I say stories, what I mean are those sneaky little narratives that you tell yourself. Sometimes they're out loud, sometimes they're just in your head. They're the throwaway comments that you make when you're chatting to your mates, or the tiny intrusive thoughts that pop up when you're getting ready for a date or waiting for a text back. They might feel quite harmless in the moment, but oh my God, they are powerful. They shape the way that you show up in dating, and more importantly, they shape what you actually manifest. And because this is way easier to see in action than it is to explain in theory, I want to remind you about one of my own experiences that I shared in the original episode, because trust me, I have lived this myself. So years back, I felt like I was properly ready for a relationship. I was single, I'd focused on myself. I was in that place where I was like, yes, universe, I'm ready for my person. I'm ready for love, bring him in. And I did exactly what I always advise people to do. I got intentional. I journaled about what I wanted in a partner. I thought about how I wanted to feel in the relationship, the vibe of it, the values that I cared about. And then I handed it over to the universe and said, all right, babe, do your thing. And guess what? It bloody worked, because I met someone. And oh my God, the excitement. You know that feeling when you meet someone and it just clicks? You've got the butterflies, the stupid grin that you catch yourself doing when you think about him, that little buzz you get when their name pops up on your phone. That was me. I was giddy. I was like a teenager again. And this guy was ticking boxes left, right and centre. We went on a few dates, and not only did we fancy the hell out of each other, but our values also lined up. We connected on such a deep level, and it all felt so magical. I remember thinking, yep, this is what I've been waiting for. But that's where it started to unravel. If you've listened to me for a while, you'll know I've had a rocky ride in love. Very messy relationships, plenty of heartbreaks, and some patterns that honestly took me years to break. So even though I'd manifested this man who looked and felt exactly like what I wanted, my brain started chucking in these little comments. So thoughts were coming up like, this is too good to be true. When's it all going to go wrong? Why does this feel so easy? It can't be right. And it wasn't like I sat around dwelling on those thoughts for hours. They were just little flickers. But here's what I know now. Those flickers were my subconscious stories showing up. And those stories didn't just stay in my head. Oh no, they fell out of my mouth and slipped into conversations too. Now, at the time, I was working in an office with a group of girls who, like most workmates, lived for the daily gossip about dates and relationships. So naturally, when I first started seeing this guy, I went in gushing like, oh my God, he's amazing. I think this could be it. I think I finally met someone. And they were all so happy for me. But then something weird happened. After our second, or it might have been our third date, they asked me how it went. And what I said was, yeah, it was okay. I don't think it will last though. Like, excuse me? Who the fuck said that? Because that wasn't how I actually felt. Inside, I was smitten. But out loud, I was downplaying it, acting like I was lukewarm, that I didn't believe anything would really come of it. I told myself at the time it was just me playing it cool, not wanting to look too keen, but it kept happening. Every time they asked, I'd shrug and say, yeah, it was nice, but I doubt it will last, or we'll see, I'm not sure he's really that into me. Meanwhile, on the dates themselves, I was floating on air. I loved spending time with him. But the second I was with my friends, it was like I was rehearsing a completely different script. Now, a couple of months later, out of nowhere, and I mean out of nowhere, he totally ghosted me. Like completely disappeared. One day we were planning our next date. The next day he'd blocked me. No argument, no explanation, just poof, gone. And I was gutted, heartbroken, devastated. I replayed everything, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. And when I spoke to my mentor about it, he said something that just completely floored me. He said, you manifested exactly what you asked for. You asked for a relationship. You got one. But then you sabotaged it with the stories you kept telling. To yourself, to your friends, to the universe. You literally spoke it out of existence. And as much as I wanted to argue with him, I knew he was right. Because manifesting isn't about vision boards, journaling, conscious intentions. That's just the surface. The real driver of your manifestations is your subconscious. And your subconscious gets revealed in those tiny, casual, I don't even mean it kind of comments. And that was my light bulb moment. Because I'd created the exact situation that I feared just by constantly putting the story out there that this won't last. So after that heartbreak, I really had to sit with it, because it wasn't just about this guy ghosting me. It was me realising that my subconscious was louder than my conscious intentions. And this is the thing that so many people don't realise when they're manifesting love. Your conscious mind is only, 5% of your brain power? It's the bit that writes the journal prompts. It's the bit that says affirmations in the mirror. It's the bit that swipes on Hinge. But your subconscious, that's the big boss. That's the 95% of you that's actually running the show. And your subconscious doesn't care about what you say you want. It only responds to what you actually believe. And what you actually believe comes out in these little micro stories. Think of it like a film set. Your conscious mind is a director. It's got the script, the vision, the dream. It's saying this is the story we're creating. Girl meets guy, falls in love, has a healthy relationship, lives happily ever after. That's your conscious intention. But your subconscious is the cinematographer, the lighting crew, the actors, the set designers. In other words, the people who actually make the movie happen. And if they're all still working off an old script that says love never works out for me, guess what kind of movie you're going to end up with? Not the one you wanted. And this is where the stories that you tell yourself matter so much, because they're not just silly little comments. They're literally the script your subconscious is following. Every time you joke with your friends saying things like, oh, men are trash, or I only attract unavailable guys, or dating apps are just full of weirdos, you're handing your subconscious a scene direction. So don't be surprised when your love life starts looking exactly like that. And I bet if you're listening right now, you've probably got one of these stories too. And what I want you to notice is they don't just describe your past, they predict your future. When you've got that subconscious story, you'll find ways to sabotage or avoid anything that could prove it wrong. So maybe you keep going for people who live in another city, or someone who's still hung up on their ex, or someone who flat out tells you they don't want anything serious. That's your subconscious picking a partner who's guaranteed to prove the story right. It's almost like your brain would rather be right than happy. And I'm not saying this to make you feel like shit. I'm saying this because this is actually good news. If your brain is powerful enough to keep manifesting people who are wrong for you, imagine what happens when you rewire the story. Imagine what shifts when you teach your subconscious a new script. Now, before we talk about rewriting the story, I want to just give you another metaphor, because we all know Katie loves a metaphor. So imagine you're driving a car. Your conscious mind is in the driver's seat. It's got the map. It knows the destination, Love Town, Healthy Relationship Avenue, Commitment Crescent, whatever. It's there saying, we're driving to long-term love. Thank you very much. But your subconscious, that's the GPS. And if the GPS is programmed to take you to Ghosting Road, Unavailable Alley, or Heartbreak Highway, it doesn't matter how much your conscious mind insists that you're going somewhere else. The car will still go off course. If the GPS is programmed wrong, you're never going to get the results that you want. Now, most of these GPS coordinates get set when you're really young, from childhood, from your early relationships, from whatever messy stuff you've been going through. So if as a kid you learned that love meant proving yourself, or love meant you'd be abandoned, or love meant that people always leave just when you start to love them, that's the script that your subconscious is still working with to create your stories. So what happens? You match with someone on Tinder who on paper is lovely, stable, ready, serious about you, but your subconscious is like, ugh, boring, not interested, because it doesn't fit the old story. And instead you feel crazy chemistry with the guy who tells you up front he doesn't want anything serious, because your subconscious says, ah yes, this is familiar. This is what love has always felt like. Do you see how dangerous these stories can be when you're trying to manifest a better relationship? So circling back to my experience, when I kept saying, this won't last, it wasn't just me being silly, it was my subconscious screaming its old script out loud. And because I never challenged it, it won. It directed what happened next. So doing this subconscious work is non-negotiable if you actually want to manifest the relationship that you're dreaming of. Now we know what's going on. Your subconscious is absolutely running this whole thing. It's probably got an old script, probably written years ago, and unless you change it, you'll keep living out the same story, but just with different people. Now, the good news is that those stories can be rewritten. You're not doomed to live in that place forever. You can teach yourself a new way of seeing love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down for you. Now, I don't normally go into this much detail on a podcast, but it is such an important thing to be aware of that I just want to give you a little bit more today. So if you need to, pause this episode until you've got, I don't know, a bit of pen and paper where you can write some notes down, or just keep on listening. Okay, step number 1, you have to catch the story in the act. So the first step is awareness. You can't change a script you don't know that you're running. And the fastest way to catch it is to listen to your own language. What do you say about dating when you're with your friends? What do you say to yourself in your head when someone cancels a date or doesn't text you back? If it usually sounds like, of course he ghosted, they always do, or oh, that figures, the good ones are never interested in me, or this is why I hate dating apps, it's all just weirdos, or I just have the worst luck with men. Those little throwaway lines, that's the script. That's the GPS coordinates that your subconscious is following. So this week, I want you to eavesdrop on your own brain. Keep a note in your phone. Anytime you catch yourself saying something negative about love, dating, relationships, write it down. Don't judge it yet, just notice it, because you can't rewire something that you haven't even identified yet. Step 2 is to challenge the story. So once you've caught a story, the next step is to challenge it. And this is where it feels uncomfortable at first, because your brain loves being right. If your subconscious believes that all men are emotionally unavailable, it will find 400 examples to prove it. But challenging the story means asking, is this universally true? Or is this just what I've seen so far? So you need to start poking holes in your own story. So if you've got something like all men are emotionally unavailable, okay, really? Every single man on the planet, are you sure? Or is it just the ones that you've met and chosen so far? When you start poking holes, your subconscious gets a bit wobbly, and that's exactly what we want. Step 3, flip it into empowering language. So now comes the fun part, rewriting. You've got to give your subconscious a new script to run, and that doesn't mean just chanting cheesy affirmations that you don't believe. It means creating statements that feel like possibilities, statements that open a door instead of slamming it shut. So instead of saying something like men always ghost me, try saying something like I'm learning to attract people who are consistent and reliable. What you need to do here is not create something that's like pie in the sky affirmation lies. Create bridges so they're believable enough that your subconscious doesn't reject them, but they're new enough that they start creating that fresh pathway. Rewrite the story, rewrite that story into something that you can believe, and every time you catch yourself, that's what you need to think of. Step number 4, repetition and evidence. Now, you can't just say it once and expect magic. Your subconscious needs repetition and proof. Think of it like training a puppy. You don't just say sit once and boom, the dog does it forever. You repeat, you reward. So let's say your new story is I'm attracting people who are consistent. Every time you see any evidence of that, even small, you anchor it. So if a friend checks in on you after a bad day, that's evidence. If a colleague follows through on what they said, that's evidence. If a guy from Hinge actually turns up on time, that's evidence. Make sure you clock it. You say to yourself, see, consistency exists. It's showing up. This is my new story. And over time, your subconscious will start to believe it. That old GPS coordinate gets overwritten. So the first thing you need to do, just as a reminder, you need to catch the story in the act. So you need to figure out what are these stories that you probably don't even realise that you're saying. Once you've got those, you need to challenge them. You need to look for examples that challenge that story as a fact. Next, you need to flip the story into empowering language that you can start to get behind. And step number 4 is you have to have repetition and evidence to help solidify the new belief. If you take one thing away from this, let it be that you don't manifest love from what you wish was true. You manifest from the stories that you keep repeating, believing, and acting on. Attracting love is about alignment, for the good, for the bad. If you're in alignment with shitty stories, you'll get shitty love experiences. If you're aligned with amazing stories, you'll get amazing love experiences. And it might sound daunting, scary, hard, and honestly, you would be right. But that's why I created my program, Create Love. Now, Create Love is an audio program that guides you step by step through the entire process of rewiring your stories, evolving your old and unhelpful identity, and it shows you how to call in that beautiful fairy tale ending. I've got a client who went through just one module and she's met someone by the end of that, just from doing the work in that initial module. That's how powerful this stuff is, I shit you not. Now you can see all the details about Create Love in the show notes, or you can head to www.themanifestingmindset.co.uk/join-create-love. That's it for this week. Heavy topic, the stories, but such an important one to have. Until next time, sending you love, light, and manifesting vibes.